Introducing the Poet Life Podcast. Go check it out today on your favorite platforms, including iTunes, Apple Music, and the website, thepoetlife.com.
Find the way.
Hey, it's Christoph Wrights of the Poet Life Podcast. Listen. I'm so excited about tonight's episode. For those of you, if it's morning time or evening time, it's night for myself, and I believe for my guest, Coach Sean Smith. Mr. Sean Smith, how are you, sir?
Fantastic. Yeah. I can't put into words how excited I am to share this time with you.
Man, likewise. I was on Facebook, and I was just on Facebook. You know how Facebook has ads and things. And as a matter of fact, I have a friend of mine that is under the coaching of Miss Lisa Nichols.
Okay.
And so now I'm connected to her in that way, right? You know how Facebook does, you connected to somebody who's connected to somebody, right?
Yep.
And so I saw that she was putting out a movie, and it was in relation to spoken word. I said, wait, hold on. What is going on here? Why don't I know about this? And then I saw the trailer and the clips, and I said, oh my goodness, they're in my head. They're in my head, man. And I saw your performance, and I reached out, and not thinking, not knowing whether or not you would respond, but you did. And I'm truly grateful for you to respond, and for you also to agree to be on the show, man.
Yeah, well, likewise, I appreciate the outreach, and I obviously saw the title Poet Life.
Yeah.
And I just really honor, anybody that is dedicated to the life of poetry. Indeed. It's such a beautiful art. It's a creative endeavor. And I just, immediately was taken to your site, and, took a look at what you're up to and what you're committed to. And man, it was an easy yes. So I really appreciate the invite.
Most definitely. So we're going to go across the whole gamut, and I want to know, and the people want to know, where you got started. Like, when did you start writing? When did young Sean Smith pick up a pen?
Yeah, I really haven't been poetic until recently.
Wow.
I've been a creator for a long time. Okay. I've written a lot of articles. I do a lot of videos on YouTube. So I've been in front of the audiences. I've been on stages, all that for a real long time. And, I don't know that I ever wrote a poem.
Wow.
that I can remember, other than a haiku here and there, little things like that. My wife is a poet. And
really?
So she's been writing poetry for a long, long time, all the way back into, her younger years in middle school. She actually wrote an entire book of poems based on Jack Canfield's 64 success principles. She took every one of the principles and put it into a poem, and it was really, really powerful. So I don't know, maybe there was some kind of intimidation or something, right? We already got one poet in the marriage,
right?
Let me not try to jump on. And then what happened was, about 3 years ago, I decided to do a one-man show. And, I figured it was just going to be a collection of all the stories that I've been telling for years and years on stage, stories about my dad, stories about my childhood. As a ball player, I was a baseball player for a long time. And I just needed somebody to help me put it all, into a stage-worthy play. And as soon as I committed to doing the play, I had this voice inside that said, this is going to be about your mom. And I said, absolutely not. It's not going to be about my mom. And the quick story behind that is, and I can get into, as much of it as you want, but my mom passed away in 2012.
Oh, no.
And so this was about 3 years ago. So it was 5 years after she had died. And Christoph, almost nobody knew about it, man, because I didn't tell anybody. You know, my family, of course, knew, and just the closest of my friends knew, but people that I grew up with that knew her, they didn't know, because I was so ashamed of how I treated my mom when I was young, that I felt like if I tell people the story of her death, then I have to tell people the story of her life, which meant I need to share who I was in her life. And I didn't want to, because as a young kid growing up, you know, I had a lot of anger, and she was the scapegoat. She was the one that I just projected all my anger onto. And so for, you know, the better part of 2.5 decades, I didn't have a good relationship with my mom. Now, thankfully, about 3 years before she died, we had just the most healing conversation that I could have ever asked for. And I got to know my mom for the first time. You know, I was like mid-30s, and I finally got to know who my mom was. And when that happened, all of my anger dissolved. Like all the stuff that I've been holding on to for all these years. Because when I was young, I used to bully her verbally pretty bad. You know, I hate admitting it. And then when I got older, I had my own kids. Even after I got into the world of personal development, I was still cold to her. I didn't want to be, but I didn't know how to just turn that switch off, right? And I had all this repressed anger, you know, that I wasn't dealing with for myself. And she, like I said, was the target. And so we had this conversation, and it was about a 3 or 4 hour conversation. And she told me about her life. You know, she told me about her childhood. She told me about the things that she went through as a little girl. And for the first time, brother, in my whole life, I saw my mom for her pain instead of all of the flaws, instead of all the imperfections, instead of all the things that I was holding against her as to why she wasn't, you know, the perfect mom that I deserved, right?
Right.
And so back to this story, I get this voice in my head that says, this is going to be about your mom. And I was not interested at all about this play being about my mom. And I resisted for about 3 days. And then finally, I just surrendered to it.
Wow.
And then what happened, Christoph, is once the pen hit the paper, it just flowed. You know, this download just flowed so beautifully, but it was hard because it literally was me going back into my childhood, into my life. The powerful thing about it was essentially all I was doing was, it was like I grabbed a clipboard and went back through the earlier phase of my life, and I was just paying attention to what was going on. And that's how I was writing. And I was writing as a 6-year-old, right? When I was 6 years old, I wanted to marry my mom. She was the perfect woman. I was actually angry at my dad. My play opens up with scene 2. I'm angry at my dad because he took my soulmate. You know, he married the woman that I'm supposed to marry.
Right.
And then I'm 12 and I'm 14 and I'm 16, and I'm just going through the trajectory of my pain. And the beautiful thing that I would not have signed up for had I known this is what was going to happen is that not only was I writing and becoming the bully as I progressed through my childhood, but I had to play my mom. So I was bullying my mom, and then with a shift of my weight, I was my mom being bullied by me.
Wow.
That's the beauty of a one-man play and what makes it so ridiculous. But there's a scene that I knew I had to write, and I didn't want to write it, and it's my mom's monologue. And it's right after this moment where I just unloaded, you know, the most vicious verbal attack that I had ever given her when I was 17, and I slammed the door. And then I became her on the other side of the door. And what was so crazy, man, is as I was crying, I wasn't crying my tears.
Oh.
Like I could feel these are not my tears. These are coming down my cheeks, but these are not my tears. And this pain that I'm feeling is not my pain. And I was truthfully just channeling my mom. And what came out of me over the course of about a couple months, it ended up being a 90-minute show.
Wow.
And from the moment I wrote the first word until opening night was less than 90 days. And it wasn't like, let me take all time off and let me just write this. It was writing in the morning, writing at night, but it flowed out because it felt like it wasn't my story. It felt like it was her story.
Right.
And so I ended up doing this play. And in the process of doing the play, I became more creative than I'd ever become. Because, scene 7, the lyrics of scene 7, the dialogue depends on what's in scene 1. And I think there were 17 scenes. And so I ended up just putting together this play, and I loved the creativity of it. It was the first time in my life that I truly felt alive, like my creative flow was unleashed.
Right.
And the poem, the play itself wasn't poetic at all, but it just unleashed this creativity. And it got me into my body, and I studied acting, and as I got into my body and actually became the essence of my story, I feel like this creative animal, was just awakened. And I would say maybe 2 or 3 months after that, somebody asked me a question on Facebook. I don't know if you remember, about 3 years ago, there was a whole thing with Gillette, the company Gillette, and they did a commercial. It might have been only 2 years ago. They did a commercial on toxic masculinity. And it was all about, is this the best that we can do, right, as men? And their tagline is the best a man can get. And so there was this commercial that ended up ruffling some feathers, and there was a lot of debate. And because I had gotten into my own masculinity, and my own insecurity through the course of the play, because that's really what I was diving into, right? The reason I bullied my mom is because I didn't feel secure with myself. And I felt like if I could tear somebody else down, then I could feel this illusion of power, which I think is common, for a lot of insecure men. And so I started to really get into the idea of wounded masculinity and why we bully people and why we hurt ourselves as men. So a woman asked me a question about the Gillette commercial, and I started to type my response on Facebook, and I just felt this energy come over me. And I caught myself and I actually said, I think I have a lot to say here, but it's going to come out in a poem. So hold that thought. Wow. And then I just opened up my phone and I started, thumbing some ideas that I was having in my mind, and slowly started to, add the rhythm and the rhyme. And then I would say a few weeks later, I had this 10-minute poem. Wow. And it's all about toxic masculinity and what does it mean to be a man. And it's really a poem that I wrote to my son, saying, this is what society tells you it means to be a man, son, but this is what I've learned it really truly means to be a man. And I was terrified for people to hear it. I was terrified. This was the first time that I shared any of my poetry. Yeah. Right. And, it's a vulnerable thing. And I remember I shared it at a private event, and my heart was pounding, and I just hoped that they liked it. Right. I didn't want to get booed off stage. It was in a little talent show, and it felt good. They loved it. And so I actually put it to video, and I filmed myself doing this poem. And when I released it on my YouTube channel, man, the butterflies and the fear, and it was really interesting to me because I got 1,000 videos out there, like literally, and thousands of articles, and like I don't have any problem putting my stuff out there, right? Putting my mind, putting my thoughts. Yeah. I've been dealing with people's opinions for a long, long time, but this was a new baby. Right. And so I was really taken aback at how vulnerable it felt for me. Somebody who's, in the spotlight all the time, for people to see and hear my poetry. Wow. And I actually, when it went live, on YouTube, you can schedule the videos to drop. When it went live, I just started crying, and I ended up having to cancel some of my appointments. And I just wanted to kind of be with this feeling. And I ended up talking with a few people, and I did a little bit of a Facebook Live, and I just leaned into that vulnerability, and I didn't die. People didn't throw tomatoes at me through the screen. And in fact, the opposite is they really, really liked it. And I shared it with my son, and he really, really liked it. And then from that point on, I just started writing. And I don't know how many poems I've penned at this point, maybe 20 to 25. And now my mind is starting to think in rhyme. I'm sure, I'd imagine that happens with you. This is relatively new for me, but I'm narrating and I'm editing and I'm seeing as I'm talking, if I could rhyme two words or if I could, create some kind of a rhythm to it. And so I just feel like now, it's almost like I got to make up for all this repressed creativity inside of me. And I'm flowing. I'm about to hit the studio actually next week and actually put one of my poems to music. Nice. And record, something with a track behind it. And then this movie that you mentioned, that was the culmination of all of this, as well as the topic, which is the racial healing in our society.
Sure.
And then we exploded it. We exploded onto this Hollywood set, and now, as you said, it's a spoken word film. It's raw and real and scary, but it's a mission and it's a movement. And so I feel like maybe the last couple of years of writing poems have kind of got me ready for this piece. And who knows what the next chapter looks like.
Yeah. Wow, man. That is amazing. And I'm trying to figure out where to start, man.
I know I gave you a lot there.
No, that's good. It was really, really heavy. And because most people that I talk to as it relates to their poetry, they started real young, Yeah. Like myself, I started writing in the first grade, Right. When a teacher gave us an assignment, which was create a poetry book from scratch, from the front of it to the back, the paper, the binding, everything, and your own writing. Right. And so from there,
it just flowed out of you, huh?
Just flowed out of me and never stopped writing. Right. So it's so amazing to hear that it was recent until you got that extension, that pen became an extension of you, and those rhymes and those lyrics start to come. Where and how did this movie come about?
I'd say about 2 years ago, I just had this thought that it would be really powerful for Lisa Nichols and I to do something together. I've known her for about 6 or 7 years. We got a real good relationship. And once I started writing poems, I just thought, with everything that's going on in the world today, racism has always been something that I deeply care about, ending and contributing to. And so I started just jotting down some notes of what it could look like, a white man and a black woman, and just speaking real, and I thought we had a unique relationship to do that. What I didn't know is that she's been a shadow poet for decades as well. I had no idea that she actually did an open mic, 15, 20 years ago, but never anything besides that. And she'd been writing some poems, but never shared it, any of her poetry with anybody. And so earlier this year, when George Floyd was killed, I just felt this compulsion that I just got to I got to contribute to this conversation somehow. And it wasn't anything that I was very public with, speaking to racism specifically head on. And it's something that I've always talked about at private events and, in my inner circles, but nothing public. And Lisa and I both kind of parallel had a thought, we got to do something about this. This is a conversation that we need to contribute to and facilitate in some way. And Lisa and I have been doing a lot of transformational work, with seminars and coaching and all that long time. And then she ran across David Bianchi, who I didn't know. He requested, connection on Instagram, I think, a few months back. And, I checked it out, and he's a Hollywood actor. So I was like, oh, who's this dude, wanting to follow me, and followed him right back. And then we were just chatting and ended up talking on the phone. And he said, yeah, I just ran into Lisa a few days ago, and we think we want to do something together. And she said to give you a call because, you are the third person here. And so I didn't even know that behind the scenes they were talking about a piece. And so David's been doing spoken word poetry to cinema for a long time.
Wow.
You can check him out, David Bianchi, on YouTube, and he's got a lot of his spoken word poems on YouTube. And he does something that he calls spinema, which is cinema plus spoken word, but super high quality. I mean, he is, a Hollywood actor. And so Lisa and I were just going to get together and, do something on Zoom, right? And just record ourselves on the screen. And I say my thing and she says her thing. But bringing David into the mix just took it to a whole nother level of not just creativity, but production. Right. And so we each started writing our poems separately. And I don't know if you've ever written a poem with more than one person. Like it's not all that easy to do.
Not at all.
Right. And so I wrote my piece, and in the film, my character is a relatively ignorant, all lives matter kind of white guy. Right. And David's character is the black man speaking to the reality of being black in America. Mm-hmm. And Lisa's character is the black mom, essentially, right? The black motherly love and kind of seeing on both sides, speaking to both sides of the fence, representing unity, right? And so I'm writing my piece and David's writing his piece and Lisa's writing her piece. And then we all bring them together, and it was kind of disjointed and didn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, it's like a relay, right? And so if my last line doesn't tee up David's first line or vice versa, well, it doesn't make sense. But again, it came out pretty quick. I want to say maybe 3 weeks. Nice. We had, and originally we were wanting to do about a 5 or 6 minute video. Yeah. And then it turned out the first reading of the whole thing, once we thought the script was done, was about 18 minutes. And so we knew it was way long, but we also didn't want to sacrifice the quality. We didn't want to sacrifice the message just to try to get it into some 6 or 7 minute framework. And so once we just kind of polished it all together and we did a bunch of rehearsals and stuff, we rented a set down in LA and we spent one day shooting. And I mean, it was a full-on Hollywood production, man. We had camera, we had lights, we had, lighting and effects, and people making the steam effects. And Lisa's got a piece in the film, one of her scenes, and she's just in the middle of a riot scenario, with all signs, all strewn all over the place, and chairs and all this stuff. And I mean, it was really incredible what David pulled in, from all of his Hollywood people. And Lisa and I didn't really know what we were getting into, right? I mean, number one, we're speaking, and so we had to know our lines, but it's a whole different game when you've got a big Hollywood camera in your face, right? And now you're speaking the lines and you're acting and you're going back and forth and you're rehearsing over and over again, and take 3, take 4, take 5, right? But it ended up being amazing. and I feel like we created something that really brings people to the table. No matter where they are, there's a place for everybody to find themselves, not just in the movie, the visual aspects of the movie, but in the lyrics of the poems. And that's one of the consistent feedback that we've been getting from so many people is, I feel like I can say something now. I feel like I can do something now. I really resonated when David said this, and I really resonated when you or Lisa said that. And, it'd be nice for me to say that that's what we thought we were doing. We really just wanted to put a movie out there and try this thing called spoken word cinema and see what comes out. But man, I'm really proud. We're all three of us are immensely proud of what came out. And more than that, the reaction that we've been getting with the people that have seen the film. We had an advanced screening a week and a half ago, as you know, and a 16-minute movie is not going to change people's hearts, right? Sure. But it'll start the conversation. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're wanting. And the fact that we can use poetry to add some entertainment value and to add some uniqueness to what people usually see on the big screen has been really beautiful. And it's opened up some doors that, we hadn't even planned on. So that's Let's Grow.
Yeah. You just said that the movie has opened up some doors, and I'm sure you don't even know the doors that it has opened for other people and other poets. Right? You might have got a call here and an email and a DM and some opportunities for you three, but if you only knew the eyes that have been opened of poets that said there's no money in poetry, I can't do a movie, I can't be in a movie with my poetry, all I know to do is an open mic or write it and put it in a chat book or anthology or try to get it published in a magazine, the regulars. Yeah. And for me to see that trailer, I was talking to my wife. It's like, come here. And
it's powerful, huh?
Yes.
I mean, we had like 30 Hollywood people on this film, editors and Emmy Award winning producers. And, David, really put it together. Sorry to cut you off, but I appreciate it. And the first time I saw that trailer, I started crying.
Feels good, doesn't it?
I don't think I've ever created anything that I feel so proud of. I've created a bunch of stuff, and usually there's a little thing that I wish I would have done differently. I wish I would have had this forethought. I wish we wouldn't have cut corners here. And not an ounce of that with this film. So yeah, the level of pride, and I so appreciate what you said about the industry and the essence of poetry. Truthfully, it's not really anything that we set out to do.
Right.
And, and maybe that's why it came out as sacredly as it did, because we didn't have any like vanity goals,
Right.
We weren't really tied to any kind of outcome. We weren't even really thinking about making money or doing premieres or any of this stuff. We just wanted to get this thing created.
Right.
And then once it was created and we saw what we had, that's when we started thinking a lot bigger.
Sure.
And yeah, man, I'm humbled to hear what you have to say about, opening the eyes in the poetry community. And one of the things that we do want to do with this brand of Let's Grow and courageous cultural conversations is inspire creativity You know, we talked about like having poetry contests or maybe, you know, having people submit their own, maybe short film or, you know, a little 2-minute selfie poetry or poem or something to just inspire more expression about the things that really matter to us.
Indeed. We can help you with that, man.
Perfect.
Indeed. Yeah. We have our finger on the pulse of poetry, and that's not to, you know, brag at all, but it is, we're being very intentional. That's why our slogan is uplifting the poetry community, building the poetry industry. Because as you said poetry community. If you think about it, when was the first or last time that you heard someone say poetry industry? Right?
Today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You say, so it has to be built. And I don't know if it's self-conscious or unconscious that you all weren't really planning for this to do major things, right? Do you think, in retrospect, that it was because it was poetry? And what do you think about that? Do you think it was because it was poetry?
That's a great question. And my immediate answer is yeah, probably, because neither Lisa nor I had ever done anything like this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if we were going to think about things that we're familiar with and events that we've sold before or books or whatever, and we might have this long-term vision and then work our way back, we truly didn't have any of that long-term vision. I think because this was our first jump into this place. I mean, Lisa, truthfully, you know, I told you my story, how late to the game I am. This is the first time anybody, aside from that one open mic night like 25 years ago, that anybody has heard Lisa do poetry.
Yeah.
I mean, it just hasn't happened. And so we were both, and we were both like, you know, holding on to each other's arms. Right. And the first time people were watching the movie, we were texting each other in the background, like, hey, did you throw up yet? Yeah, I already threw up. Like, I mean, we were honestly terrified. But to your question, that's, I'm sure, why we didn't even have any other vision other than, do we even have the guts to let people see this thing that we're afraid of showing people?
Right.
And I have this philosophy, and maybe you have the same philosophy in poetry, but I have this philosophy when it comes to creating content, that when we create content with strategy in mind, it usually poisons the creativity. And when we do something with no strategy, which is right in tune with your question, and it's just sacred creation.
Got it.
You know, that's when we touch our soul in a whole different way. And that's when we tap into a voice that probably wouldn't come out if we were editing it with, how's this going to make money? Are people going to like it? You know, where am I going to sell it? I think that kind of strategy, how to, really muddies the waters of creativity. So yeah, the short answer on top of the longer answer is, yeah, I'm positive now that I hear myself answer your question. It's because we didn't have any of that long-term vision that it was as pure as it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And just you speaking on that and admitting that will again prick the hearts of a lot of poets. We have a campaign going on right now. It's a question: who knows you're a poet?
Well, I could feel that question right now.
Because there are so many, and this is the first time I've heard that, shadow poets. They write for themselves, you know, to release and as an outlet, and won't tell a soul.
Yeah.
And that's cool. There are a lot of poems that I write that won't see the light of day because it's for me.
Yeah.
But the question is, will you not share because you're fearful of people's opinion
Mm.
because they're going to be like, poetry, right? That
Yeah.
response. So if it's that, and you have to be honest, you have to take, honest inventory of yourself and ask yourself that question. Because if it's that, then you may want to get some confidence and go to an open mic. One of those open mics that welcomes newcomers, right? Newbies, beginners, and clap up and praise those that had enough confidence to come to stage. One of those. Not don't go to the one where everybody's killing.
Right. Your ego will keep you off stage.
Yeah. Like, I know it's your first time. Get off the stage. But
yeah.
You know those open mics, you know where they are, right? So just like here on the East Coast, well, here in DC and Maryland, Virginia, we have bus boys and poets. Yeah, and those are just amazing. They have like 10 locations here just in the DMV, and so pick your location, man. And I'm not sure which night of the week. The one on U Street it might be, but it's so welcoming to the newcomer, so welcoming, and we're just like, yes, do it, come on stage, right? And so
I can highlight my experience of that. I don't remember when I heard about an open mic night out here I'm near LA, Los Angeles, and a friend of mine and I went out and we just sat in the audience and got that exact experience that you just said. People were going up and they were just reading it off their phone.
Right.
They were reading off their, little notepad. People were saying, this is the first time I've ever shared my poetry. And as soon as the crowd heard that, they gave them, big standing ovation. It was just total welcoming feeling. Yes. And that's what allowed me to come back a few months later and recognize that this is the place that I can share something I never shared before and really feel celebrated. Because ultimately, going back to what you said, I think what keeps us off the stage and keeps us from sharing our poetry, especially anything that's deeply meaningful to us, is that reaction.
Right.
Whether somebody says, who are you to be writing a poem, or you don't know what you're doing, or you should have, those two words don't rhyme, or whatever the ridicule is. I think we're protecting ourselves from the ridicule. And there are plenty of places, to your point, where it's just all love and you can go up there and flub your lines, because I've seen people go up there and try to, recite a poem that they thought they had memorized and they forgot it. And they just stood up there for 20, 30 seconds and apologized and started again.
Yeah.
But everybody in the crowd celebrated the effort of expression, not the final product.
Right.
And one of the things that I teach when it comes to creating content, I've never really put it to poetry, but it completely maps on to what you were saying, is there's a difference between production and promotion. What we're afraid of is the promotion, right? We're afraid of people hearing about it and not liking it. But that is not a good enough reason to not produce it.
Yeah.
And to your point, a lot of times your heart just needs something out of your body and onto paper. And maybe that is never going to see the light of day, but it's out of your body.
Right.
And so I feel like we owe it to our inner voice to produce the poetry. And then if we don't promote it, that's a choice we can make. But once it's produced, then the question I would ask is, are you more committed to protecting yourself from the ridicule or putting this sacred voice in somebody else's ear that needs to hear it? And I've been moved so many times by people's poems, and I know you have too.
Yeah.
And I thought, what if they wouldn't have shared that with me?
Right.
Because poetry is, I've used the word several times already here. Poetry is truly the most sacred experience that I've ever touched. There's just something about it that is so beautiful. I think that's what makes it so vulnerable for us. But when we touch our sacred voice, my feeling is our sacred voice is not for us alone to hear. Our sacred voice is there for somebody else's ears.
Indeed. Indeed. Yeah, that's what it is. Just with you saying that, that just made me say that I believe that poetry is the language of the heart. Just raw, doesn't need a beat, you know. Love music. But when it is literally just a pouring out of your heart, and a lot of times it doesn't have to rhyme, right? You may hear one rhyme or two out of a spoken word piece, but it just felt like the whole thing rhymed.
Yeah, that's a really good point. There's something about the sacredness of the message that produces the energetic rhythm and rhyme, even when the words themselves don't linguistically rhyme. And I think that's a mark of a poet that has gone deep enough to really stir the soul, and the rhyme can be inside the energy.
Right.
And not just with the words.
Exactly.
Never thought of that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So this movie premieres, the world premiere is the 13th of December. So in roughly 12 days.
Yeah, it's coming up quick.
That's awesome. So what's the play? What's the rollout? What does the world premiere look like?
December 13th, as you said. What we're doing right now is getting as many partners behind the scenes as possible, people that want to contribute to the conversation. You know, there are a lot more people in the conversation of racial division that have a suppressed voice, but they just don't know exactly what to say. You know, there are people that don't want to get canceled in today's cancel culture. There are people that don't want to just get lost in their anger because it's a deep topic, you know, obviously. And what we wanted, if we had any vision early on with this movie, is we wanted a product that a lot of people could get behind and contribute to the conversation without them having to be in the spotlight. Because I think that's what a lot of people are afraid of. And so right now we're getting as many partners as we can collect. People that are willing to post on social media about it, people that are willing to host watch parties of the trailers leading up to the premiere, people that are willing to email their communities. And we're really trying to get 2 million plus people knowing about this film. Nice. And we're selling tickets, but it's only $4.75. And when people buy a ticket, they can actually have a watch party if they want, so that they can bring other people, you know, either in person if you know you can do it safely, or online. They can get people together on a Zoom meeting or something like that and actually host watch parties. You know, so we're selling tickets, but the big play here is certainly not, you know, the revenue from ticket sales. The bigger play once it gets out is we want it to go viral. You know, we want it to cross as many desks as possible. We want to get it in the lap of celebrities. We want to get it into, you know, I'm going to take you up on your offer and have a further conversation about what we can do in the poetry industry.
So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And, you know, David's got some ins in the Hollywood arena. We've submitted it to festivals already. We just put it up for an NAACP award.
Nice.
You know, we won't know if we get any headway in any of those for several months, but you know, we really want what we wanted with this movie is we wanted to touch mainstream.
Yeah.
And that's what we're hoping the poetry and the cinematography will do. You know, Lisa and I have been in the personal development world for a long, long time. Lisa's got millions of followers, way more than I do. All of her people are going to watch whatever she puts out.
Right.
But this conversation needs to be in mainstream. This conversation can't just stay inside of personal development or self-help or even just the poetry community and industry or even the Hollywood, private circles. We got to get this mainstream. And so what we want for the film is we want people to lean into the discomfort of it. You know, it's a triggering film for a lot of people. You know, I say some things as my character that I don't like saying. I didn't like forming these words out of my mouth, but it's important because this is some of the consciousness that's out there. And, you know, David and I ended up forming this really powerful bond across the table from each other, like literally across the table, but across the racial table from each other. And the bond that we formed in the writing of the film, you know, the co-creation process of it, but definitely in the production of the film, right? On set, proximity, you know, you can see it a little bit in my background here. We're at the table, we're nose to nose at times. And we're experiencing so many of the emotions at a deep, deep level, but all of that needs to come to the surface.
Right.
So what we're hoping is that we provide people a path for forward moving conversations. And so once the film gets out, you know, we wanted to open a lot of doors. We wanted to open doors in the corporate world. We wanted to open doors in the entertainment industry, maybe in the sports world. You know, we wanted to open doors into the conversation around togetherness and unity and ending the othering that we see in society so much. And we want to facilitate conversations. So we've got questions that families can follow along with. You know, after they watch the movie, we want them to have a 60, 90, 120 minute conversation. And some of the feedback that we've gotten from some of the conversations that have happened after the advanced screening, man, it's been so heartwarming. Because, you know, it's easy to lose hope in this conversation for me.
Right.
It's easy to see what's in social media, you know, which is just a battlefield so often. It's easy to see the drama on TV screens and in the media and all that stuff and just lose hope about whether our society even cares about coming together. And what has given us a lot of inspiration is the amount of people that are in tears themselves, just saying this conversation changed my relationship with my in-laws, with my parents, with my children. It opened up awareness that I never had before. And that's where I was saying earlier that I'm not sure that we know what we have here.
Right.
In this movie, you know, once it gets out and people have bigger ideas and opportunities than we could have ever even thought about. And so once we do the world premiere, you know, now it's just a matter of whether it's PR, you know, trying to get on TV shows or trying to get it in the hands of some influencers. It's just who can we get in front of with the power and the production value of this movie, but then facilitate healing conversations, right? Like this movie is just an on-ramp to a much, much bigger conversational freeway.
Right.
And that's what we are kind of simultaneously excited about, maybe a little nervous about,
Right.
and we have no idea what's truly going to be opened up, hopefully with the amount of people that really actually want to come to a place of connection and compassion
Indeed.
and understanding. And I don't know that we can do that without some kind of a catalyst sort of experience. And hopefully our movie is that catalyst.
Yes. Yes. As you were speaking, again, I let my brain just go, and I'm thinking, and I really appreciate the big picture that you all are seeing now, right? And that's why I asked that question when you all were in the creation. I'll say the creation of this project. Mindset wise, you all were in the poetry community mindset, because it was the heart part. It was the love of poetry is speaking to the message of let's grow.
Yeah.
And what this movie, what it will do is the doors that it will open, it will then make people think, okay, all right, let's get the heartfelt writers to do what they do. So it just comes from the heart. Let's then match it with community and industry. So it's not after we've created it. It's simultaneous, right? The writers with the heart, they're creating, but the folks with the mind of mainstream is there. You all are on the same page. You're working on the creation. They're working on the promotion of this.
Right.
So it has to be a match made in heaven for it to get to that place where here's this project. Let's put it on the big screen. You know what I mean? So I want to help as much as I can. And I have reached to where, like we did on America's Got Talent, we reached
I saw that. That was amazing.
Yeah, man. And so I believe we can do the same thing. It's on the level of engagement and the challenge, the Let's Go challenge, to where we reach out to poets and say, hey, you have 60 seconds. Give me a minute long video of you going in as it relates to social injustice. The topic and title is Let's Grow. Yeah,
I love that. And going back to what you said earlier about our vision at the beginning, not really having one because we were just such brand new poets.
Yeah.
I think what that has created for us in a beautiful way is we're just open books.
Yeah.
We're blank canvases, and we want to stay in our lane and have people such as yourself that have paths, that have influence, that have reach, that have ideas way bigger than ours, really drive this thing, and have some ownership with it and have some contribution at a whole nother level. And it feels like a very humble creation for me. That's kind of weird to use that word. I don't know, but I honored the fact that that's the word that came to my mind. And Lisa said something to me the other day, right after we did our advanced screening. She said, and I don't know how familiar you are with Lisa. I know you mentioned you got somebody that's been kind of under her umbrella for a while, but it sounds like you're relatively new to her community. And if your listeners aren't real familiar with her, I mean, she's been around for a long, long time in the personal development world. She has literally millions and millions and millions of followers, and she's been on all the big shows, and just really has a viral reach.
Sure.
And she's been doing this for a long, long time. And what she said after the advanced screening last weekend was she finally feels like she touched her 100. She finally feels like she touched the thing that she was sent here to do.
Wow. You said finally.
Finally.
And all of what she's done. I'm very familiar with Lisa Nichols, for sure. That's amazing. So what it sounds like to me, what poetry has done for her, it has brought her back to her younger self.
Absolutely.
And said, I'm free now, because I didn't feel like I could let my poetry out. I didn't think I would get the responses that I wanted. That's amazing.
That's 100% true. And it feels like, really, to both of us, that all the things that we've been doing, and I've been in this world of personal development and coaching and speaking for over 15 years. So collectively, we've got about 40 plus years in this industry. Wow. And it feels like it's all been foundationally preparing us for this. And there's an element of, I don't want to use the word anxiety, because it's I don't feel any negativity around it.
Sure.
But there's this element of blank slate, not knowingness.
Yeah.
That is unfamiliar to us, but because of the sacredness of this particular movie and the conversation, it's something that we're welcoming, that we don't know. We don't know how this is going to play out. We don't know once this, movie comes out of the premiere, and once we give birth to this, and once people hear about it, and once some influencers, really want to get behind it or add to it, like you were saying, what if we had a bunch of, because what we really firmly believe is that, I'm getting goosebumps all over, man, that the topic of racism can only be, not the topic, but the essence of racism can only be healed and shifted in the grass, right? This is boots on the ground. This is a grassroots movement. You can't change people's hearts just by changing policies, in law, or changing politicians. That doesn't change hearts.
Right.
So we really feel like this has to be a grassroots movement. It's people just taking one step from wherever they are right now. It doesn't mean that you got to put out a movie. It doesn't mean you got to do a whole video. It doesn't mean you even have to necessarily produce anything on your own. Maybe it's just, from the white perspective, maybe it's just people not laughing at racist jokes anymore. Or creating some healthy conflict around the hidden racism that we now have awareness around, at the holiday table or something like that. It's that kind of grassroots movement is what we get most excited about, because if we could have 1 million people taking one step forward instead of 50 people trying to take 100 steps forward, what it does is it pulls people in a whole nother way. And there's an invitation that you spoke to earlier, especially in the poetry industry. We're just going to keep calling it an industry and just think that into existence, man. There is a up level between community and industry. I think there's a legitimacy to it.
Yeah.
And so my commitment to you, I'm going to make this on your show, is that I will forever call it the poetry industry.
Thank you.
That the love that I have for this new industry that I'm now a part of, and people coming out and contributing their bars, contributing their voice, writing a half a page, maybe co-creating something, maybe putting a montage together. Who knows what this can turn into? And as you were speaking life into it just a little bit ago, I was thinking, why is this not a play? On like written for Broadway or something, right? Like that once the creativity gets behind it, you know, I feel like I'm getting this vision of just like crowd surfing, you know, like the crowd surfing and crowd contribution effect to the whole industry. And the essence of this topic, I think, is something that's so
Indeed.
beautifully sacred. And if that can get some more poets to putting pen to paper and speaking that voice out and maybe having the courage to share their first poem, you know, and that were to happen 10 more times and then 100 more times, like that kind of ripple effect is beyond comprehension to me right now.
Right. Yeah. In order for this to grow the legs it needs, it has to go through the people.
Mm.
It has to be brought to the people and through the people.
Mm.
So again, I'm committed to helping, even in the 12 days, even in this from the 2nd to the 13th, it will be nothing for me to reach out with the same list of poets that we've connected to and more, and say, hey, it's I call it calling all poets.
I love it.
And I put the word out there, and it's nothing for them for them to upload their videos into our Dropbox and say, I want to be a part of this, because the thing is, so many poets are like, all right, when is it our time? And what I'm trying to get across to them is we can't wait for someone else. We have to that person to make that move, right? And so these calling all poet experiences and opportunities are emboldening poets to be like, okay, wow, I didn't know I had that much power in my pen. I didn't know I could be on America's Got Talent.
Right.
I didn't know I could be connected to a spoken word film. So we're just shining the light on the possibilities and the opportunities. And so now it'll click and say, I can create a play with my spoken word poetry. So you have my commitment, man. And I also, when I create a production, when I create things, I make sure that when it is done, like when the movie is over, that it's not over.
Yeah.
It has to have a legacy with it. It has to have a conversation. It has to be the movie itself needs to be the catalyst to the conversation and you see.
Sorry to jump over you there. Yeah, I just keep going back to what you said. It's got to go through the people.
Yeah.
You know, what you said a few moments ago was so powerful. It's got to speak to the people and go through the people. And I think invite the people to
there you go,
speak up. And that's what we want in this film.
Yeah.
And that's that, as I said, that, you know, that's what's been so inspiring to me. And I'm going to commit right back to you as well. You know, anything that we can do with the film, you know, you've got the ideas more so than I do, for sure. And anything that we can do to add, you know, inspiration to all the poets out there, legitimacy to the industry, and pave a path. You know, I think we owe it to ourselves to keep singing that song that's ours to sing.
Right.
And I think it's so easy for our ego to get involved and say, well, I don't want to sing my song unless I know somebody's going to pre-order the album. Right.
Yeah.
And we want people to pre-approve us before we truly sing our song. And I'll say, what I've learned in all of this, especially through the creation of the play, the most important audience member was the one on stage.
Wow.
When I was acting that play out. And I would say, I never said that. I never said that till right now. My whole body just responded when I said that. And the most important listener is the one speaking when it comes to our own sacred song. And so, if we can inspire through the work that you already do, and I just honor what you've dedicated, your career to, and the sacrifices that you've gone through, and getting up early and staying late, and all the things that, that some people see, but most people never see, for the purpose of liberating young voices out there, regardless of how old, what age is on the physical body. I'm 47, but my voice is young. My poetic voice is young. And so the liberation of that poetic voice is so necessary. You asked that question, when is the time? I mean, the time to sing your sacred song is now.
Yeah.
No matter who's listening, even.
Yes.
And I just really honor, what you've got going on here, Christoph, and the commitment that you have. And I know there are a lot of people out there who have been inspired that you will probably never meet. And so on behalf of all those people that you'll never know, I say thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really excited about this because I've been hearing, and before I let you go, I've been hearing too often, with these repetitive crimes that have been happening, poets saying, I don't know if I have any more poems left in me to speak to this, because I have a list of them where I can just change the name of the victim. I can just change the name. Why do I need to write another one? It's, my lyrics don't need to change. Right. So this is a challenge and a charge to poets everywhere to keep writing. Keep writing, because the opportunities to put your words on screen, on radio, on TV are coming.
So true. Yeah, maybe we can build a community, that's really wide reaching in whatever way, right? We put our assets and resources and ideas and networks together and build something that even provides more opportunities for those pens to keep scribbling.
Yeah. And the title's perfect. Let's grow.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Thank you. I would love, you just kind of teased it up a little bit a few minutes ago. I would love to hear and to see 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 2 minutes from your audience members on anything at all that they're inspired by the movie. Everybody can go to the website there, letsgrowmovie.com. There's 4 trailers that people can watch. That's where people can buy tickets if they want to buy tickets. There's also a link there to become a partner if somebody wants to become a partner and contribute with their communities. And anything that any of you see on that page, from the trailers or just the words "Let's Grow" or your own experiences, might not even have anything to do that we touch on in the movie, but just your own experiences in social justice. We all have a perspective that's valid. And I think we spend, unfortunately, a little too much time arguing over whose perspective is more valid
Right.
than the others, or whose perspective is not valid, right? And that's primarily, the voice of all lives matter and the dismissive voice of white culture. And we got to put an end to that. This idea that I'm right, you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You're right, and I'm right. Your perspective is valid. My perspective is valid. Her perspective is valid. And what if we treated the whole community as a single entity rather than seeing each one of ourselves as the individual entities? What if we said we have a community, a humanity here, and we have the blessing of millions of different perspectives? And I come to you and I see your differences as an enhancement to my experience on the planet, and vice versa, rather than me seeing your truth as a threat,
right,
to my ego or to my identity. And that's never going to create the kind of connection that is needed. And I think the poet is uniquely positioned. The person that is willing to go into the inner depths of the soul, and touch the pain and the sorrow and the dreams and the elation, all the good and all the bad of your humanity, and put that on paper. I think it's such a noble thing to do. And a lot of people aren't willing to touch their own humanity. So for those of us who are willing, and then we put it on paper and we throw some rhymes in there and whatever cadence we want, but we just bring our raw, real song, and then we start doing it together. I just got the vision of the two candles, right? You light one candle with the other and they both stay lit. Right. And we did all of that collectively. The not just the spark that we could create, but the fire, that we could light under society's rear end, to change and to come together. It's just it's a sacred calling. Yep. And I honor anybody, and I'll personally do whatever I can to support, and we in the community, with this film or whatever transpires, do whatever we can to support those sacred voices being spoken.
Awesome. Well, first of all, your cast are welcome. Lisa's welcome. David is welcome. I actually reached out to David on Facebook, like I reached out to you as well.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And definitely. When we get off this here, I'll just take another 2 minutes to share with you my idea.
Please.
And, we can move forward. Everybody go to letsgrowmovie.com. You've heard the conversation. You've heard the heart on both sides of the screen. This is, I don't know if this if this ever has been done, if it has, even still, this is going to be an amazing experience and opportunity to grow. So I implore everyone listening, watching, even reading the blog on thepoetlife.com. We're going to do so much more, and we need you all to continue to write. Push your poet friends to keep writing. I'm sure you have heard the same thing that I've said, that poets have said, that I'm tired of writing about the same thing. Tell them to keep on writing. Tell them to keep on growing, and we'll continue to grow together. We're going to uplift the poetry community, but we're also going to build the poetry industry. So we can have more ears and more eyes to see. Mr. Sean Smith, Coach Sean Smith, thank you so much for coming on to the Poet Life podcast. I truly appreciate you. If you could leave anything, and you've left so much here, but if you could leave anything else to close out, what would that be?
Well, first of all, thank you, Christoph, for this time. as you said about a minute ago, you didn't know if this has been done before. I felt that reverberate through my body, and we feel like this co-creation is a combination of poetry, purpose, and Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And not that it needs to be the only thing that's ever been done before, but it is a unique combination of three pillars of creativity that, when put together, can create this future that I don't think could be created otherwise. The depth of the poet's soul is needed in the creation of this compassionate, connected future. And I'm inspired again by, your words and your mind and your community. And I just feel like, this is just page one of chapter one of a multi-million chapter journey.
Yes, sir.
And I'm excited to be on it, man. Thank you so much for your time.
Awesome. Everybody, you all have a great week, a great weekend, and continue to watch, continue to listen to the Poet Life podcast. We have something planned. Just be on the watch. Go to our Instagram page, The Poet Life, and you'll see what's to come. Look out for Calling All Poets. It's coming. It's the Poet Life podcast. Good night. My guy, man, I appreciate you, man. Heavy, right?
Yeah, that was deep and soulful and meaningful and really, really powerful. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So my idea is this, right? When I reach out, it's easy to get them to do a minute, 30 seconds to a minute video with their words to speak to this topic.
Okay.
What is the possibility, right? Because I know your site has the movie site. Is it a one pager or is it has several pages?
There's no links on that page other than just that, it just takes you down to
Exactly.
lower sections. But we do have a couple different sites like to watch the actual movie. And did you see the whole thing, or did you just see
I did not get a chance.
Oh, I'm going to send it to you. But did you have access to it and you just haven't watched it, or you don't have access to it?
I don't have access to it. I know I signed up for it, but I don't know what I had to do after that. But yeah.
Okay.
Send that to me if you can.
Yeah, for sure. You want me to just email it to you, or you want me to put it in chat right here?
Yeah, throw it in the chat. It's
okay.
Yeah, throw it in the chat. It's super easy. But my idea was, as they come in, is there a way to have a dedicated page of the incoming videos?
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying? You see
for sure. It could just be a slash.
We had poets from around the globe to submit. And this is a topic that they'll jump on. Not only the topic, but to know that they'll be connected to it. You see what I'm saying? Now you're going through the people. And
absolutely.
So
I love that.
Foot soldiers everywhere. Hey, I'm going to be connected to the Let's Grow movie, and it's a spoken word film, and blah 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 blah. Then now you have voice. You have people that will speak to what's going on with the movie.
Yeah, that's a easy yes. We can make it just .com/poet or .com/poet life. Poet life.
Yeah.
Okay.
.com/the poet life.
The Poet Life. Yeah, we'll get your whole branding.
So when I do the calling all poets, obviously the instructions and everything will be in the email. But at the bottom will be the upload video. Why is that happening now? I mean, I'm glad it's happening now that the that the podcast.
You got an echo again?
Yeah, I'm getting an echo again.
Oh, okay. I'm not hearing it.
And then it went away. So at the link at the bottom of the email is an upload link to our Dropbox, and so we get notifications as the videos come in, as they come in. So I'll share that link, share that folder with you all, so you all will have. As a matter of fact, what I'll do is I'll clean them up first, cut the top and the bottom off, if it's a dry spot, so I'll clean them up to where they're ready to post.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's easy. I'll just shoot it over to our web guy and he'll have them up right away.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause man, it's
that's a great idea. I love it.
It works so well. It works so well. Literally, when AGT called me, they said, can you do what you did for Brandon? I was like, yeah, that's not a problem. How much time do I have? You have 3 days. 3 days, 60 poets around the world submitted videos.
Really?
60.
So how did all that how did all that happen? He was already a part of your crowd?
So Brandon Lee is my guy, right? He's my business partner with my nonprofit Poet Life Academy.
Nice.
He does the curriculum. We teach kids how to use poetry to express themselves, everything we're talking about, but starting young.
Nice.
And so he tried out 2 years prior and didn't make it.
Okay.
And so he just matured up and studied and just got better and work and tried out again. He got the golden buzzer.
It's amazing.
First poet on the show ever got the golden buzzer and won the whole show. So mid season of the show, I said, my guy's killing it. So let's lift him up. Let's ground the poets, because this hasn't happened before.
It's a big deal, yeah.
Major. So I said, let me think of an idea. Okay, cool. This is what I'll do. I'll do calling all poets, and the instructions were to basically just say something about how proud of him you are and how he's inspired you to do more with your work. And so they sent those in. I compiled them together, edited it. I did it myself, and said something at the beginning, said something at the end. And when he reposted it, obviously AGT saw it and was like, that I knew he was going to the finals.
Yeah.
And I think he knew that too, because one, he's that good, but two, TV. Yeah. TV. All right. So let's roll with this here. Let the first time poet ever win this thing. He did deserve it. And so, but the thing is, no one could debate because he was that good.
Yeah.
So it was easy for them to say, let's go. All right. So what they, like 3, 4, 5 days prior to the finale, they do treatments.
Okay.
For their intro, each poet or each artist's intro. So they wanted us to help with Brandon's finale treatment. And so that's how that happened. And that's nice. Said 3 days, and I did the calling all poets. But the difference was, they said, but we want the poets to do a poem though, not just congratulations.
Okay.
We want them to write some bars.
Yeah.
That's not a problem. That's what they do.
That's
a problem. So I'm talking about Ghana, London, it was amazing, man. So I say that I say all of that to say it's nothing for this to happen and make it roll rolling until the premiere of the movie and beyond. Because
Yeah.
so what's the plan afterwards? Let me ask you that. I know you said some conversations and things. Do you all have some type of a plan afterwards?
Not much. We want to facilitate the conversations. That's where our hearts are, Lisa's and mine, is, because we want to help transform people's lives. That's our world, right? As far as the production or the promotion afterwards, we've just had early discussions about, maybe hiring a PR agency or getting it into certain people's hands. But honestly, I mean, there really isn't anything beyond well, I can tell you, there's nothing set up for anything beyond the 13th.
So
our plan is to roll it out on YouTube and just try to get it viral and get as many people watching it and get the algorithms behind it and, and get it out there and then let it open up some doors. But we don't really have any concrete plans.
Got you. So 2 things. The first thing was let's roll with the Calling All Poets and let them roll in. But the second thing is, if you can set up a Zoom call and let's talk.
Okay.
Set up a Zoom call and I have a Zoom account if need be. But the key players, let's jump on a Zoom call and let the movie be the catalyst.
Okay.
You see what his name he has an African name. But the uncomfortable conversation with a black man.
Yeah, I forget his name too, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. You see how that he had no plans for it, like you all had no plans for it to do anything. Now he's on freaking OWN.
Right.
Yeah.
I was thinking of him like a week ago, just kind of what can we model? Who can we get in front of, or what can we model, or any of that? So I'm absolutely 100%. Are you saying let's do that before the premiere or after the premiere and try to get it?
I'm that is more so inspiration.
Okay.
That is inspiration, right? But what if you let the poets talk? What if you let the poets talk? And what we just spoke about, I'm tired of writing poems about.
Yeah, that's deep, man.
That right there will go. And I'm saying the Brandon Leaks. It's a phone call.
Yeah.
The caliber. I'm not talking just John the poet.
Right.
I'm talking about poets.
Yeah.
The Rudy Franciscos.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so yes.
That's an easy yes. Yeah, let me know when you want to do that, and
you tell me
make it happen.
You all are the big folks. So
okay.
I'll work around you all's schedule. I'll work around Lisa's schedule. Let me know if you need my Zoom account. It's nothing. We can make it happen. But I'm jumping on the Calling All Poets and getting that rolling. You just let me know day and time, and I'm stopping everything.
Man, I appreciate you so much. What's the easiest way to get to you?
Every way, man. Every way. I'm at The Poet Life everything. My email is info@thepoetlife.com.
Okay.
Info at the poet. I didn't flood that.
Yeah, I'm sure that's probably how we were communicating.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And I'll DM you, or I'll just hit you up in a few different places.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I'll throw all my information in the Facebook Messenger.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So you'll have my phone number. Just lock me in.
Okay.
And let's work it out, man. We can make some
Man.
major things happen in 12 days.
Let's do it.
Yes,
man.
sir.
You got me all lit up.
Yeah, man. Hey,
Thank you for the outreach.
Yes, most definitely. You know, when I see stuff like this, I'm like, oh, that's what I'm talking about. People making some moves. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. Let's do it, brother.
All right. That's your Instagram. I'll tag you in on the Calling All Poets.
Okay, please. Yeah. And I'll spread the word on my end as well.
Awesome. I appreciate you, man. We'll talk.
Yeah. Appreciate you too, brother.
All right.
Have a good one.
All right.
Introducing the Poet Life Podcast. Go check it out today on your favorite platforms, including iTunes, Apple Music, and the website, thepoetlife.com.
Find a way, find a way. Ain't get no time now. You on the way, I'm doing fine.